Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. I feel like you guys have maybe missed us or not, but
we're here every week.
We're here every week to give you some amazing content. This podcast series was created based off of a program called Big Money Stylist, which is the education portion of Natural Beauty Rose Hair Extension, which is a system of hair extensions that I created over my years behind the tree chair. And I found it to be an amazing tool for myself as a mom and as a stylist to make the most amount of money and have the time be more effective behind the chair. So about 8 years ago, I branded Natural Beauty Rose and I started educating like crazy. And even before that, I actually had been educating, but I was under the sharing is caring law in the hair world. And it was like, stylists would be like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I'm just trying this out. I'm beating this in. It's extensions. And they'd be like, can I watch? Can I learn? And so I felt like I was always kind of teaching because I was always trying to figure out on clients and myself what would work. And anyways, 8 years ago, I finally felt like I had a pretty good system. And I was in a place in my life where I needed to make more of an income and I wanted to turn it into more of a business. And that's when I branded DKW Styling and Natural Beauty Rose. So anyways, we started our podcast a year ago.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been so good. I think in an industry of social media where everything is driven based off of pictures, it's interesting and fun to hear people in person and kind of get a taste for who they are. So we've had like a ton of amazing responses off of this show. Hairstylists and not even hairstylists, like business women, men, they'll email us and just give us tons of positive feedback. So thank you to all of our listeners and continue to listen. I hope you get a ton of value out of this. And we're always going to keep it real. Like I think that's what makes it a little bit different is because I'm like, listen, we're going to talk about struggles we have. We're going to talk about what's going on right now. We're going to be real, but I'm always looking to learn and grow as a person. So I'm always trying to like reel it back in and add value for you guys. So anyways, Ani, I'm going to have you bring us in on our topic today.
Yeah, so we're officially on episode number 48, which, holy cow. And inside of that, if you want to see, because we actually do record it live as well, you can go to bigmoneystylistnow.com and watch us and see what we look like and how we move and just the shenanigans behind the scenes. So today, this has been a big year for BMS.
Yeah.
Huge. It actually grew to something that we didn't expect this quickly.
Right.
I mean, sitting right now, our wait list for 2019, I think is close to 3,000.
Yeah.
And we are doing one event next year.
I know. It's kind of scared me a little bit when Garrett told me this. And fun fact, when did BMS officially start?
May 2016.
Starts next year?
Starts next year.
16. So it's almost been going 3 years.
Yeah.
And I remember like the first I was doing classes solo and they were just Natural Beauty Rose classes. And then I'm like, Garrett, there's something these women and men are missing. Like there's a piece of the puzzle that we're not getting. Like we need to add more value. And I had seen what he had done with his business with Wake Up Warrior. And I was like, I wanted to bring him over to my side of things to help with the whole hair thing. And so BMS is still kind of a baby. But NBR and DKW is the one that has been around for about 8 years. So today's topic is...
It's all about going back to the basics, which I feel like for artists is slightly daunting sometimes. And they're not huge fans of it.
I know, because it's like, it's almost easier to teach somebody who's like newer in the game. A lot of times they're more like receptive to learning new tricks. And I feel like when we get really good at something, it's hard because we're not only like in our comfort zone, but it's hard to learn new tricks. But then to be asked to go back to the basics when you feel like you're really good at something, you're like, I already know how to do that, But
oh my gosh, yes.
Hair is like one of those things like you can always learn from it.
You're never so good that you know everything.
Yeah.
So for the month of 2018, for the year of 2018, we really focused a lot on growing BMS and getting artists in and being able to teach them NBR and business and marketing. And it grew very, very quickly to the point where we were like, okay, now we're actually having a problem that we didn't really expect to have, which is too many people. Too many, but not too many.
Yeah. Well, what I found is it was just like hand-tied hair and like beaded rose is like very trending right now in the hair game and the hair extension world. And so all of a sudden, like, everybody's teaching a class, and you're like, what the fuck? And so what's happening is people are like, well, which one should I choose? And NBR is different because of BMS and the business side and the mindset and everything else that goes around it. And so, and our students are having such killer results that people are like, ooh, what is this? I want to be a part of it. And I think that's what's kind of helped like pick up the momentum, is because we're different. BMS is what sets NBR apart. It makes it what it is.
But inside of that, what we realize is there's really always two different kinds of people everywhere. We had one portion of the student base who was like super gung-ho. We said jump, they said how high, and their results were massive. And it was constant practicing mannequins, doll heads, then on clients, then on friends. I just saw a picture of someone's husband let their wife beat a row in just to get like real human practice.
Their husbands, it's on their husband's hair?
Yeah. I mean, they took it right back out, but they were like,
funny.
I need a real head, so come here, babe.
I wonder if I could get it on Garrett's little 3-inch stubs.
I mean, this dude's hair is not very long. I bet you could.
That's funny.
But that is like the commitment that I see. But then there was kind of the other, like the darker side, which was they wanted results. They wanted more. They wanted more money to work less and do all these really cool things, but they weren't really willing to put the effort forth behind it to actually become good.
Well, what I'm always like, I guess fascinated about is that like even inside of our program was what was happening inside of our own network is you had stylists that were like had tons of NBR clients, and they were just killing it, and they just were hungry, and they kept looking for more, and they were doing what we call power practices, like if you're not doing clients, you have to go home and like practice on a doll head. And so we had people that were just like all in, and then we had people that were paying for the membership that weren't doing anything. And they would come, the problem that I was seeing is they'd come to a class and that's level 1, they'd come to another class, that's level 2, they'd come to another class and that's level 3. But they were just coming to the class and they weren't putting in the work behind. And so then you're like, well, we can't have this stylist who says they're level 3 and has an entire book of businesses of NBR, and this stylist who says they're level 3 because they've come to 3 classes, but they have like 2 NBR clients. Like, we can't put them on the same playing field. And then so we were like, that's not going to work. And then the other thing that was crazy is that people were not doing the work inside of even the mastermind. And so I'm like, why are you paying this money if you're not going to do the work? That's so crazy. And to me, I'm not that type of person. And so it's like buying software and not using it. It's like, just gracefully bow out. And when you're ready to put in the work, then come back. I recently just had a shadowing student named Anastasia, and she was part of, I don't know if you remember her, but she came to like one of our first BMS.
It was my BMS.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she came to my BMS and then BMS convention this past fall or summer.
Yeah, so she kind of was like going through a lot of crazy stuff in her own life, and just kind of like she stepped out of BMS, and then I started a shadowing program, and the only way back into our mastermind was to come to my shadowing program because classes were sold out. So she came to my shadowing program, and she's just flat out told me, she's like, oh, I should have never left. I felt like I lost momentum. And she's like, now I'm in it. I'm doing it. I'm excited. This is great. But the reason I'm sharing it is like she joined, and then she kind of gracefully bowed out and was like, hey, I don't have the time to do the work. And then now she came back in. So I guess I'm just like baffled by people that are paying the money and then they don't do the work and then they're bitter towards us. I'm like, well, you didn't do the work. I realize you might be angry because you paid all the money, but that's on you. Like, you have to actually do the work. And if you weren't, you should have like stepped out, and you don't need to be a douchebag about it. Like, just step back, because the invitation to come back is always there. Unless you're a fucking dickhead about it, then you're never ever invited back. So, like, be classy about it, you know?
Well, and it's crazy. So we were seeing all these problems inside of BMS, and so we decided to make some, very radical, huge moves.
Right.
Being that next year, we're actually shutting BMS down to only be 250 students, which I hear that, and at first I peed my pants a little. I was like, oh,
because we currently have how many?
Right now we have over 300, or right at about 300, not including the new people from convention,
right,
and not including the 3,000 person wait list.
Like, we could have rolled another 300 into our mastermind. And we, like, the idea of 600, I was like, oh, shit. Like, if we were already seeing the problems in our network of people not doing the work, what was the point of rolling another 300 in there? It just creates
It would have been chaos.
Yeah.
The worst chaos ever. So we decided, all right, we're going to reel this shit back in. For 2019, there will only be 250 students inside of BMS. Now, the question comes, how in the hell do we choose the 250? It can't just be like, oh, I like you, I don't like you, that was a cool color. Yeah, you made me laugh once. You like Harry Potter, you're in. Just kidding, but kind of. So we decided to actually do, I don't want to call it a competition, but at this point, it's really turned into one.
It's like we launched it as prerequisites. Like,
absolutely.
There's only so many spots. It's like going to Yale or Harvard or any university, really. Like, they don't accept everybody. There's certain qualifications that you have to hit, and that's just kind of how it goes.
Well, and inside of that, the prerequisites are actually going back through and doing 30 rows on a mannequin head. Now, for the newbies, they're like, well, thank God, because Lord knows I need the practice.
Right.
But then we have also the other group of people who maybe they've been doing NBR for a little bit, or they've been in the program and maybe not using it to its full extent.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I'm getting messages of people going, do I really have to do this on a mannequin head? I'm like, oh.
Do you really want a spot in the mastermind?
I'm like, that seems almost, my response is always, yes. And that was my response. Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
And it blows my mind that, and even now some of the feedback I've been hearing of people that have actually decided to leave Mastermind and BMS because they're so upset about this that, well, I don't have time to do mannequin heads. I can't believe it.
Can it be on a real person?
No.
It has to be on a mannequin.
Mannequins, period,
Okay.
end of discussion. Because we want them to get reps under their belt. And I get that question a lot. They're like, well, I have clients as account. I'm like, nope. The rules clearly state mannequins.
Right.
Mannequins, and only mannequins. And so then after that, they do actually have to do 4 real people.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to make sure, because here's the deal. You can do something for a really long time and still do it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and not only that, the stitching just changed inside of NBR. Like, things are changing and progressively making NBR better. And if you're doing it the old way, you haven't even practiced the new way.
I still use the old stitch.
Oh, I use the new one.
You know,
all the time.
I here's the thing though. Like, I think the new one was good for new students because it helps you pull a little tighter. But I'm so fast and fluid. Like, mine I've done both, and they're both like the same to me.
See, yeah.
And
Okay,
it's only the difference of like put your hand here and put your hand. They're not.
no
that
one
different.
listened to Danielle. The new one's better. It's easier. But for you, for
Yeah,
you who create it, you've done it 10,000 million times.
It's literally
yes, of
not that
course.
different though. Like, so don't we're not changing the system or the method. It's literally like you turn your needle over a different way. So.
And it creates just the same knot, but a different knot. It's just, it's really good. But let me tell you, the feedback from the students on this, phenomenal. Because I know
better.
you've never struggled, or you haven't for a really long time, but it's you. You know what I mean?
I just work so fast and
But the students, they're like, holy shitballs. This has been, they are geeking out and they're loving the new stitch. They're super stoked about it. So that's cool. But for me, it blows my mind how the people who are sitting there and they're like, well, I have a whole book. I'm this and that. I'm too busy. I'm too good. It's like, wait a minute. Are you telling me that when balayage first became a thing, you never practiced on a mannequin head?
Right.
How is it? Why do you think it is that telling a student like, hey, you're paying for this curriculum, you're coming into the new system, we're making it better than ever before. We legit have a BMS university with on demand. You can watch it whenever you want, however you want. There's different courses. There's frequently asked questions. There's everything.
The funny thing is too is like. So if you want to try a new color, like I have so much practice hair that I'm like, oh, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. Like, that's just like part of the game to get good at something and to learn and like get better. Like, you're constantly practicing, whether it's on a doll head or practice hair or whatever it is. I think that it just goes into like a little bit of like the artist's ego.
Oh, absolutely. So why do you think they have such a big ego about this of going, and I don't even consider it going back a step. Imagine like you're going up a mountain and there's 2 different paths. One path isn't really sloped as much. It slopes so much less.
Okay, here's how I think. It's like you get to this place in your career and you're like, man, I'm really good at hair. And like artists get to this, and you'll have a few home runs like at the salon. I mean, you had an amazing one this week and you're like literally you're like, yep, I fucking made it. Like,
nailed this one.
I'm there. You know what I mean? But a good artist and a great artist, there's a difference between the great artist will always say, this is good. What else can I improve on? What can I be better on? A good artist will say, I think I'm the best, and your work's not that good, because they have an ego, and also they feel kind of, not entitled, what's the word I was telling you earlier? Like, insecure a little bit.
Yeah.
So they hit a home run and then they're just like, oh, I don't need to do that. To me, that speaks like insecurity about one. A great artist is somebody who can say, no problem, I got this. I'm always excited to learn. I'm always excited to do whatever it takes to get to the next level. So it separates the good from the great.
Absolutely. And then I also think it almost kind of goes around it's like failure as a general topic, but a feeling and sensation as well. Because I know right now, because we're only taking 250 artists into Mastermind for 2019, honestly, some of them are kind of shitting their pants a little bit.
Yeah.
And the thought of, and I don't want to say competition, but really so many have been like, how many have turned it in? 5? Oh, I'm maybe number 6. Like, you wait.
But for me, sorry, I'm going to cut you off. I want to say, like, for me, like, if I had 2 artists that their work, I'm like, ooh, and they've been in the program the longest, and it's like down to the wire, and we're having to like choose. I would pick the one that has a good fucking attitude because I know they're going to go farther in their career, regardless of what their work looks like. So for me, like, I'm like, let's like check our ego, let's check our attitude, because that's only going to serve you so far. And that's in all business.
Oh, absolutely. And then I'm wondering if maybe the people who've been in it a little bit longer are the ones who have really like had a lot of kickback of, fuck you, I'm not doing a mannequin, like, which has blown my mind. If it's almost a sense of like fear of failure as well. Like, well, if I do my 30 and then they check it and I don't make it in, I suck. And then what do I do?
Fear of rejection, maybe? Or
yeah, of like, I turned in my work because I'm the one that goes through and checks all the work, you know? And I already know, like, I know the curriculum that I'm looking for. I know what I expect to see. And it's not perfection.
Right.
You're just going through the prerequisite stage. But I'm wondering if they're like, well, what happens if I do my 30, turn it in, and then I'm turned away, or I fail that?
But that's how life works. Like, think about kids. Like, that's how we are raised. That's how we grow up. Like, you think about sports. You think about anything, like anything in life. Like, that's how life is. And I think the problem is with our industry is, like, we've gone into this, like, certification world where everyone's like, I got the paper. That doesn't fucking mean anything anymore. Certifications in the hair world is, like, it's being tarnished. Like, the name certification, because now, like, you go to a balayage class and you're like, I'm certified in balayage. And you're like, you did one class. That's great.
One time for 3 hours.
You did what? And you shared a model with somebody. Cool that you're certified in somebody's balayage. Like, no. And I was guilty of that too. Like, I was handing out certifications like, until we realized, like, okay, not everybody is at the same playing field. So instead of doing the same shit that goes on in our industry, why don't we choose to take a stand in order to better our student base and to keep the brand going well? Like, to keep the name of the brand.
It's quality as opposed to quantity. Having thousands of students doing half-ass NBR doesn't serve anybody.
Right.
But having 250 students who are elite
Yeah.
and amazing, that's what makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it really does just blow my mind. And I wonder if some people do just have that fear of being a failure. And I wish people would realize, and I even had a moment like this the other day when I was like, damn, because we have some upset students, you know, like, my God, and Lord knows I get the emails, the DMs, the texts, like, I've gotten so much. And then I sat there and I'm like, did I fail my students? I'm like, is there something that I could have done differently? It's something that I did better. And Garrett and I had to talk about it. And I ended up doing a stack on it, actually. And then I sat there and I was like, no, I didn't fail them. And then I'm literally going through my life and I'm like, all right, let's look at what could be considered a failure. I definitely failed at NBR the first 1,000 times that I did it. I failed at keeping my engagement together. I failed at making time for myself. I failed at stacking for the first 1,000,000 times. I'm like, I could look at all of these things and say, I failed. Or really, it's not that I failed. I did NBR. I didn't do it great, but I kept working until I'm a fucking trainer for the company. My God. I didn't fail at my engagement. I chose to end it because it didn't work for me. I didn't fail at making time for myself. I'm just course correcting it now to put myself first. I didn't fail at the stack. I just didn't do it great, but now I'm actually really good at them. It's not even that failure doesn't exist unless you give up.
Right.
And I think that's what's so frustrating is seeing so many students just give up.
I think too, like, I mean, there's that fear of failure, but also like you don't want to feel like guilt or shame or any of that other stuff. And so it's like literally you just retreat as like a defense mechanism, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but in reality, like if you face something and you're like, okay, I'm just going to do it. Even if it like doesn't work out, you're like, well, I did it. And I proved to myself, if anything, that I did it. And maybe I'm going to continue to work towards it next year or whatnot. But what I'm worried about is there's going to be some that are rejected, and there's going to be some that are going to bow out gracefully and be like, great, I'm still going to use NBR as a tool. It's been amazing for my business. And maybe next year this will be a better fit for me. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to work towards that. And then there's going to be others that are going to be like, well, fuck you, out of like a defense mechanism because they're like just be feeling rejected. Like, I did the work, so I should get in. Well, that's not how life works. So.
Well, and it's what's so interesting to me is not only that, but it's almost like people need a justification for something. It can't just be like, hey, you know what? BMS is just not really for me. I'm out. It has to be like, well, I didn't want to be in there because Ani's shitty, Danielle's shitty, Garrett's shitty, BMS is shitty, NBR is shitty, everybody's shitty. I'm great and fantastic and wonderful and great, but everybody else is wrong.
Everyone needs justifications for their stories.
Whoa, homie. I'm going to need you to reel that back in for a minute. Like, I don't really think that's what it is. Like, even down to, I always come back to this. I freaking hate peanut butter. I think it's disgusting. I'm not going to go shit on all the peanut butter brands. I just personally don't like it. If something's not for you, you don't have to look for justification and become a fucking victim.
Right.
and makes up some big, giant, dramatic thing about it. If you don't want to be here, dude, it's cool. We don't hate you.
Don't create stories to justify your behavior. Just own your behavior. Like, that's all we're asking.
That's literally it. So, and I just think I've been seeing so much more of it between people coming back once again and being like, I'm not going to work on a mannequin head. Really? Those are the ones that kill me. Do I really have to do that? I'm like, so let's just put this out there. Hi, I'm the lead trainer for BMS. I work side by side with Danielle. Danielle checks my work, and I've been doing mannequin heads. So if I have to do mannequin heads, you're damn right all of you have to do it too. Like, no one is exempt from this. And the reason I'm happy to do mannequin heads is because I'm not above anybody. I'm not better than
you can't
anybody.
Ask people to do something that you're not willing to do yourself.
No.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear some crazy math I did the other day? So the year before I moved to California, I was doing 3 clients a day, 3 days a week. I'm literally pulling up the math because I was so insanely impressed by this.
I don't even want to know my numbers.
Oh, no, you do not. But mine just sound cool too, though. So that's about 468 appointments a year. Assuming they all had about 2 rows, because they did, that's 936 rows in 1 year. I did NBR for 2 years before, so let's say it was about half that amount for those 2 years. In a total of 3 years, I did 1,872 rows. Assuming on average there's 15 beads per row, I did 28,080 beads in 3 years. You want to know why my beads are on base? Because I did 30,000 beads. That's why they're on base. And I'm still doing a mannequin head.
I don't want to know how many beads I've done.
And that doesn't include the fact that I've actually been doing NBR for 3.5 years. It doesn't include the trainings, the power practice that I've done, the mannequin heads. It doesn't include any of that. This is just clients.
Right.
And I'm sitting here, and I was told, actually, I wasn't even told to do mannequins, and I'm like, well, I'm going to do them too. If everyone else is doing it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I don't mean to be insensitive, but I get to this place where, like, I'll hear stuff from you or Garrett, and they'll be like, people are kicking back, and I'm like, that's fine. It's not their time. Like, that's fine. Yeah. We have to respect their decisions and their feelings and whatever it is. And that's great. If this is not your time and you don't want to do the 30 heads or whatever, then just bow out gracefully. That's totally cool. I can respect your decision. Just don't be a fucking asshole about it. Like, move on, do your thing, use NBR. Like, that was always my thing is I'm like, I created this tool over my years of doing hair that worked good on me and worked good on my clients. And in a time of need, I turned it to a brand and a business. Like, beaded rows were not fucking cool. And nobody charge shit for them. I made it a high-end service that is the most effective with your time, and I know it's an amazing tool. So if you're one of those shit talkers, fuck off, take the tool and run with it, and shut your goddamn mouth.
And what's funny to me is they loved it while they were in, and they were like, NBR, 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 woo, woo, woo. And then all of a sudden they're like, you're changing the program, I'm out, and I hate you guys. You guys are you're Satan. It's crazy stuff that I've been hearing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you want to know why we changed BMS? Because the foundation right now is shitty. It's a shitty fucking crumbling foundation. We can't have that.
It's still better than anything out on the market, though, in the hair world.
Oh, yes. Let me tell you. Let me retract for a second.
I'm not trying to, like, toot my own horn. I know it's out there. I've been involved in every little education thing, whether people know it or not. I've got my eyeballs everywhere. And what we offer as far as our training and our education is above what anybody else is offering in the marketplace. Like, it just is. But we're always after results. And right now, it's not that our foundation is shitty, but it's not giving us the results that we want.
Well, here, and let me, because I know now someone's going to quote me and be like, Ani said BMS is shitty. Nope, that's not what I said. What I'm saying is the way BMS works right now will not continue to work in the future to serve everybody else. BMS has to have a solid, rock hard, beautiful, amazing foundation, which is what we've now created inside of BMS. So you can go through and you can build something quick and fast, but then come stress, come the point where you actually need to push forward and things aren't easy and there's chaos because it's life. There will always be chaos in life. All of a sudden, your foundation starts to crumble. It's like perfect example. You start dating someone and all of a sudden, 2 seconds in, you're madly in love, you moved in together, but shit, you're still in the honeymoon phase. So now when you're out of that honeymoon phase and shit's actually hard, you're not going to end up staying together because you have no real foundation. Yeah. You have no foundation of friendship, of talking, of love, of respect. There's none of that. You were just, I don't know, lusting after each other. Well, congrats.
You got married too quick.
Oh my good Lord, yes. So that's why BMS is changing. We want to know that the 250 artists that continue forward in 2019, they are good to go. They have a solid foundation of NBR. They understand beading, sectioning, stitching, how to color, everything like that. And not only how to do it, but why they are doing it, why the beads go on this way, why you turn the beads, why the stitching goes this way, why you place hair certain ways. We want them to, yes, physically be able to do it, but have the understanding of why. Then that creates space for them to move up inside of BMS and into Mastermind and actually say, okay, now that I know how to do the art, I know how to do it, I understand why I'm crushing it, I'm going to now build a business on top of that and create funnels and all these other kinds of things that will give them a better foundation to not be a slave behind the chair. Because now another thing I'm seeing is some girls are like, well, I don't want to do mannequins. I have 106 clients. Dude, it's so frustrating because
I know.
You might
can't save them all, honey. We can't save them all.
I know, and I want to help everyone.
I know, but I think the reason we get so irritated is because like we know the program works. Like we like in anything good, you gotta like dial back your ego a little bit. Like even for me, like when I finally was like, I went to my husband, I'm like, I need your help. Like I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I can't do NBR on my own. Like my students are not getting the results, and like even I had to like submit at some level, and he would do stuff, and I'd be like, we don't do that in the hair industry. And I was that douchebag, and I was like, we don't do that, no. And then as like I started to I was like, Danielle, you gotta let go. Like you can't be that arrogant artist. You can't have that ego. Like you want his help, then let him help you. And so he would jump in and do stuff. And I find in our industry, like people want help, and then they kick back, and you're like, fucker, like I just. And so I go to this place where I'm like, we can't help everybody. And people always want like a checklist, and we're like, listen, it doesn't matter if I give you a checklist. You can't start with the simple things. Like you're kicking back on doing work on 30 doll heads. Like if you're kicking back on the small things, you're never gonna accomplish the big things. Like it always starts with the small things. Like it always does. And when you go there, you go here, and even then you have to like go back to the small things. You have to go back to the basics. Like that's just how life works. And so I'm kind of at this place, and I know we're kind of coming to an end on this show, but if you're listening to this, like if you're striving for growth in yourself, in your business, if you want to use this NBR tool, we know that it works. We do. Our students have had amazing results. I wouldn't have the results I had even before I started my brand if this didn't work. Early on, like I always joke around. I was the original BMSer because there was like things I did that I realized that was like nobody did in our industry. Like I was a mom and I was working 3 days a week, pulling in like 15, 20 grand a month doing hair 3 days a week. And that was like unheard of in our industry. But it's because like I stopped thinking about myself as just a hairstylist, and I started marketing and pushing that forward and doing all that. And so it's like, I know this is a tool that works, and I know that like, if you stop having that ego and if you stop kicking back and you just allow yourself to work and allow the process to take place, like you're going to get results. And if you feel like you need to go the other direction for a minute and try it out on your own path, then do that. Do whatever you need to do. And then if you want to come back, the door is always open. I would love to be your mentor at any time. But again, bow out gracefully, do your thing. And if I can assist you later, we can assist you later, come back on board. But we've got some amazing changes going into next year. We got a shit ton of heat for it, but I know that this is the direction that we need to do. We need to pump the brakes, build a stronger foundation, and then build upon the stronger foundation.
Absolutely. And with that, everybody has an ego, guys. Everybody has an ego. And anyone who says they don't have an ego, it's their ego telling them to say that they don't have an ego. And that's fine. Like, really, to succeed and to do crazy shit like we're doing and the students are doing, like, you have to have a little bit of an ego. Mm-hmm. But it's knowing when to kind of, like, calm that guy down and say, okay.
And submit to the process.
All right, I'm going to do this. I'm all in. Yes. And that's what it's all about, is calming that ego and knowing that going back to the basics isn't taking a step back. It's literally just going down a different path that's a little steeper up the mountain that takes you up the mountain faster. It's building a castle on ground that actually works.
Right.
And that's what I think people are missing because, like, well, I already have my castle. I don't care. Well, you're still working 6 days a week, 14-hour days. You might be making more money, but you're still miserable.
Yeah, you're still in the same pattern.
Is your foundation actually better? No, you just replaced one terrible clientele that doesn't pay well with a clientele that pays well.
Right.
But you're still miserable. Right. So here's what I want you guys to consider. Are you this person? Are you the person that has been not resistant to us, even take it outside of BMS with yourself, your business, or do you have staff that you feel has been this way, that when you say, okay, we're going back to basics, we're going back to the basics of hair coloring and color theory or cutting, extensions, anything, why is that? Like, why have you been the person to do that? Or why has that been happening inside your salon? And how can you course correct it? Because basics are so important inside of everything, guys. So on that note, Danielle, final words on egos?
Final words, you're not going to go anywhere if you don't put your ego in check. And I've learned in life that you have to be willing to like take a step back. And one thing that I always ask myself, if I feel my ego kicking in and like resisting or like being mad, like again, like when Garrett would be like, we're doing this. And I was like, artists don't do it that way. Whatever, fuck off. Like I always have to reel it back in and be like, okay, you don't know the direction you want to go. So is resisting and kicking back, is that going to get you what you want? And the answer I kept when I would ask myself that question, when I would feel my ego step in, I would just simply say, is that going to give you the end result that you want? The answer was always like, well, no. And I was like,
Nope.
And so then I would, because it didn't get me what I wanted, I just like let it go. I just fucking let it go. And then the more I did that, I was like, oh, I'm getting exactly what I wanted. This is super cool. And so for me, that was the lesson I learned, is asking myself, is this going to give you the result that you want? So that's something that I would encourage everybody out there. When you feel conflict or your ego step in, just ask yourself that simple question. So.
And with that being said, thank you guys for listening to episode number 48 of the Big Money Stylist podcast, and we will see you next week.